Hi, it's Steve here. Steve Shikatans, coming to you on July 8th, 2020. Um, it's early in the morning here in wonderful Casper, Wyoming. The best part about living here is the people. We just have some of the greatest people on earth here living out here in Wyoming, and I really love the people that I get to be with here, and I'm so grateful and happy for that. So, anyways, today we're going to talk about what not to do. Sometimes in life, um, it's more important to know what not to do. So, when I first started in business, boy, I made some huge mistakes, and probably the biggest one is just going into way too much debt. I got myself just completely upside down financially, and didn't have things paid for, and I mean, and business wasn't there, and I ended up losing everything and went into huge, massive debt. Borrowed from everybody, all my friends, relatives, anybody, banks, credit cards, anything, and ended up just in huge amounts of debt. And it was so stressful and so difficult. And there was times when I just had nothing I could do. So sometimes it's more important to know what not to do than what to do. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, what do I do? What should I do?" Well, sometimes just look at what not to do. So, and then you just eliminate you just take all the stuff that you don't want to do. But also, there's something to be said of knowing what you want as well. So, anyways, I'm going to just read. This is out of Think and Grow Rich here. Uh, Napoleon Hill wrote this book back in the 1920s, I believe, during the Great Depression or right after that. And this is a book that I've read, reread, continue to just keep reading. And anyways, there's a section here on what we call persistence, and I want to read. I want to read on a, in the this is later in the chapter on persistence, and he calls it symptoms of lack of persistence. So here I'm gonna just go ahead and read this, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Here you will find the real enemies which stand between you and noteworthy achievement. Here you will find not only the symptoms indicating weakness of persistence, but also the deeply seated subconscious causes of this weakness. Study this list carefully and face yourself squarely if you really wish to know who you are and what you are capable of doing. These are the weaknesses which must be mastered by all who accumulate riches. So, number one, failure to recognize and clearly define exactly what you want. Number two, procrastination, with or without cause, usually backed up with formidable array of alibis and excuses. Yeah, excuses. Number three, lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. Number four, indecision, the habit of passing the buck on all occasions instead of facing issues squarely, also backed by alibis. Number five, the habit of relying upon alibis instead of creating definite plans for the solution of problems. Number six, self satisfaction. There is but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for those who suffer from it. Number seven, indifference, usually reflected in one's readiness to compromise on all occasions rather than meet opposition and fight it. Number eight, the habit of blaming others for one's mistakes and accepting unfavorable circumstances as being unavoidable. Number nine, weakness of desire due to neglect in the choice of motives that impel action. Number 10, willingness, even eagerness to quit at the first sign of defeat based upon one or more of the six basic fears. Number 7, organized plans. Lack of organized plans placed in writing where they may be analyzed. Number 12, the habit of neglecting to move on ideas or grasp opportunity when it presents itself. Number 13, wishing instead of willing. Number 14, the habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches. General absence of ambition to be, to do, and to own. Number 15, searching for all the shortcuts to riches, trying to get without giving, a fair equivalent, usually reflected in the habit of gambling, endeavoring to drive sharp bargains, things like that. Number 16, fear of criticism, failure to create plans and put them into action because of what other people will think, do, or say. This enemy belongs at the head of the list because it generally exists in one's subconscious mind, where its presence is not recognized. So, um, you know, I want to probably start with the end there and talk about fear of criticism, and I think he's so right there, where we saying that usually we're not even aware that we are caring about what people think, and so therefore we don't sit down and make those plans, and lack of a good plan. So first thing is knowing what you want. A lot of people will tell you. I mean, I know that we're talking about what not to do, but a lot of people talk about what they don't want and focus on what you don't want. And when you focus too much on what you don't want, the subconscious mind acts on that and actually will give you more of what you don't want. So there is a fine line between being too focused on what not to do and actually be be there where you're trying to get what you don't want. So what I would suggest doing is figure out what you do want, and that comes in the form of goals. And you cannot be worried about what other people think. So when you're worried about, I mean, and that means anybody, your family, your mom and dad, your sisters, brothers, your friends, you know you don't have to be controlled by other people. And you aren't controlled by other people, but you are, because you're allowing that to. And you may be totally unaware that you're doing this. So it's down deep in the subconscious mind, which is the mind that never sleeps. It gives you your dreams. It's something that will regulate it, and you can feed it. You can't totally control it, but it's a force that you can use that will enable you to it'll enable you to get what you want, but you have to deliberately feed it. And one of the ways to do that is to know exactly what you want. Figure out, decide, do some dreaming, decide what you want, and get it in writing. So it might be you want a house, a certain kind of house, or a car, or it might be you want to be married, or relationship, or you might want to, or maybe it's something totally different than that. Maybe it's something like, I want to build an orphanage in Africa and help the really poorest of the poor out there. Or maybe you want to start a church, or you want to run a business, or own a business, or be successful, or but you have to be very specific, and you have to decide what it is you want. I mean, and I heard about somebody that got a hold of this concept, and they made a list, and they came up with, they were in their 50s, they just lost their job, and they sat down and they made a list of all the things they wanted to do, and it included all kinds of stuff. They had 130 things on the list, and there was stuff like meet the president, win a football, coach a team, a college team, win a national championship, go to Brazil, climb the Alps. I mean, there's just everything he could possibly think of that he wanted to do. And he made this list, and then that was his goal. Make $10 million. Have a house in Paris, France. I mean, I'm not saying that's what it was, but it was similar to that. It was just everything he could possibly think of. And when he did that, an interesting thing happened. He kept that list with him, and within 10 years, he had accomplished like 90 things on the list, and it was because he had a target to shoot for. And lack of persistence, so not being persistent, not giving it your all, not going for it, a lot of times probably means that you're just not you haven't made a decision and figured out what it is that exactly you want. And it's interesting that the symptoms of lack of persistence, or the reasons why you're not persistent, has to do a lot with caring what other people think about you, blaming others. I mean, making excuses, alibis, using reasons not to do things, putting things off, things like that. Um, a lot of it comes back to not knowing exactly what you want and what you want to do, and then that comes to not having a super good drive on what you want to do. So, um, you know, the neat thing is sometimes, like I said, you got to look at yourself and say, you do a personal inventory, and look at some of this stuff on the lack of persistence. You know, are you you ask yourself questions? Am I blaming others? Where am I in my life? Am I unhappy? Am I not? Am I aimless? Do I not have a goal, or am I not pursuing? Am I not pursuing something? Or if you don't have your goals in writing and wrote down, uh, you know, don't I think sometimes you need to be a little hard on yourself and say, hey, give yourself, look at yourself and say, what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not, you know like I said, when you take responsibility, like it's easy just to blame, blame somebody else for what happened. I hurt my back. When I don't take any kind of responsibility, well, that wasn't my fault. That was an accident. Well, if I don't take some kind of responsibility for that, I could end up having back pain the rest of my life. So I took some responsibility. Said, all right, I am responsible for my back being hurt. I was in that situation. I didn't think, it's my responsibility, and therefore I can do something about this. What do I need to do? In some cases, you may need to get surgery. In my case, I didn't feel. I mean, I'm sure if I went to a surgeon, he would have wanted to do surgery on my back. But I decided, look, I'm going to take this on as I am responsible. That's a powerful statement. I am responsible. I am responsible for my life. And I decided that, it's funny when you get there, I didn't know exactly what to do because my back hurt like crazy, and I couldn't do the things I could normally do. I couldn't lift stuff. I couldn't do your basic things that you do. And but I still said I am still responsible for this, and I knew that my goal was that I didn't want to have surgery, and I want my back to get fixed, and I don't want to have pain in my back anymore. And I didn't know what to do, and it was funny. I kept pushing and learning personal development, and kept reading these books like this, and studying myself. And the answer came, and it came through the weirdest thing. The answer came is do push-ups. So here I'm doing 1,000 push-ups every day, and it's funny that fixed my back. I don't know why it did, and maybe I'm not sure, but it did, and that was the answer. And today, I mean, I'm fine. I'm just like I was before I injured my back. So anyway, lack of persistence. Give yourself a self inventory, and ask yourself, am I having this? Am I having this problem? Do I have lack of persistence? And what's the reasons for it? Do I need to sit down and really decide what I want in my life? And am I complaining all the time? And I'm making excuses. Am I making excuses? Am I making excuses for where I'm at today? Well, I'm hurt because so and so. I was raised, my childhood was bad, or I was having or I was injured at no fault of my own. And I know that even if you're in a car wreck and somebody just dodged out in front of you and wrecked and ran into you, and the insurance says it wasn't your fault, you still have to take the responsibility for that. And you were out there. Let's say a meteor comes through and ruin and hits your car and destroys it, and the insurance won't pay for it. You could say, well, that's not my fault, but you have to take responsibility. When you do that, it's so empowering, and it'll give you so much benefits in your life by doing that, and it's really a wonderful thing. And so, I want to encourage you, don't make excuses. Give yourself give yourself a give yourself a pep talk, but also, face stuff, face this, face it, face, and if you're not sure what's wrong with you, find somebody you trust, somebody that's not gonna, somebody that would be straight with you, and just ask them what they think it is, and when you do this, keep yourself from getting offended and resentful, and don't get yourself in a situation where I'm never talking to that person again. Your job is to learn about yourself, and then face it, and then you can overcome this stuff. So anyway, I want to encourage you to keep learning, keep this self-development going, and you will find happiness, joy, and this life can be everything you want it to be. And so anyway, I hope this is an encouragement. Be persistent out there. Persist in working this. So have a great day. We'll see you again next time. Bye bye.